Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah Macintyre. And here we are. Now, I have to be honest and say I haven't got the hugest amount of hope that this podcast you will listen to because I am now on my 13th, unlucky for some, attempt to record this, and there have been various tech problems, interruption problems, problems with me and things that I'm saying and I don't like it, all culminating in this taking 2 weeks to record and lots of different frustrations. So I'm recording this, I'm having another go, and we'll see if this one is the one that hits your earbuds or if I have to keep continuing. But isn't that fascinating? It's been this one in particular has been a real evolution. I started with what I thought I wanted to talk about, then I didn't like some of it, the way I was phrasing some of it, then the tech didn't work, and then the microphone wouldn't work, then my computer had an update. It's just taken a week to settle down, and it's just been one thing after another, so always interesting. So I wanted to start today by thanking you all for the just mind-blowingly incredible response to my last podcast. So it's fascinating how these things work. I nearly didn't publish it because after I recorded it, I just thought, what a load of old self-indulgent twaddle. No one's going to be interested in this. Nobody's going to want to listen. And wouldn't you know it, this is the podcast that has had the most messages and the most emails about it. More, in fact, than all of the other podcasts I've done combined. So thank you. Thank you for your messages of support and letting me know that I did the right thing. It's such a weird thing recording a podcast, just chatting away to yourself in a room and having to deal with what you feel like your heart wants to say versus your head and your ego telling you that you're boring, that it's not of value, and it's just fascinating. And but here we are. So I just wanted to say quickly, there's many of you that have emailed. I've responded to some of you, but I just wanted to give a shout out to Carl, Carol, Maika and Charlotte, who have all messaged me, and I still haven't got back to you. I think there's more of you since then, but they're the ones that have been waiting the longest for a response. And I also just wanted to say hi to Juan of NYC, who has been sharing my podcast on his Instagram loads, and even gave me a mention in his own podcast, Third Eye Sight, this week, which was really very special. So thank you for all your support, Juan. And while we're on that subject of support, I have just nearly reached 11,000 downloads. I'm just on the brink of it. That is just mind-blowing to me. When I started this podcast, in real truthful honesty, I didn't think anyone would listen. I thought it would be more like a sort of online diary for me to record my thoughts and feelings, and it just blows my mind that there's been that many listens. So thank you all, especially those of you that have taken time to review it and share it, because that is the thing that makes the biggest difference for getting it out there and getting it seen by people. So thank you all so much. Right, so I'm going to try this one a little bit differently to the ones previously and see if this gets the A-OK from the spirit world to go out there and meet your ears. So we know, obviously, spiritual slaps, you know all about those if you've listened to this podcast before, those messages to let you know that you're not doing the right thing. And, you know, sometimes they are just like a slap. They come out of nowhere and they blooming well hurt. And I just wanted to share with you all because it is really funny in hindsight, although it wasn't funny at the time. But, you know, couple of months ago now, maybe 6 weeks, when I was really indoctrinated in the idea that I needed to do a membership program and really pushing that dialogue and trying to manifest it and working on that, I went for a walk with my dog and I wasn't paying attention, and I managed to walk through a wasp's nest on the ground, and I had a ridiculous number of stings all up my legs. I had wasps in my hair. It was like a scene from Candyman, although I am aware they are bees in Candyman, but you get the gist. In fact, I've got scars on my legs from all the stings that I had. It was very horrendous. But isn't that funny? When I look back, there was a split in the path and I could have gone either way. And I chose the way I went and I got stung. And isn't that such a really clear sign from the spirit world that I was choosing the wrong path? But at the time, just thought it was a bit painful and poor me, and I should have paid more attention. So I just wanted to share that with you because it just keeps making me chuckle when I think what it must be like for the spirit world trying to communicate with me. And I'm a medium. I do this for a living. But just trying to, we'll give her a really big sign, we'll give her 27 wasp stings and wasps in her hair. And that will show her. And there's me going, oh, well, that was a bit sad, but I won't let it ruin my vibe, and trying to carry on with it and not really thinking about what that meant. So that's just something I wanted to share with you, because I know I've said this before, but really it's so important to understand that you are not the only one who's missing signs, and you are not the only one who only gets these things in hindsight and then says, oh, now it all makes sense. Before I was a medium, I used to have a cooking business called Home Cooked by Hannah, and I was working just ridiculous hours, really pushing into that sort of hustle mentality. I've got to push through it. Duncan Ballantyne worked really hard. That's how he became a millionaire. And the money stuff with me is deep-seated and a long-term thing I'm trying to undo here. Anyway, and I had a period of time where it's so clear now that the spirit world were trying to get me to stop doing that job. But when you look back, you don't understand how you couldn't see it. But when you're in it, you just can't see it. And I had a freezer break that defrosted £1,000 worth of stock. I got locked in a house with a crazy lady who had ordered 12 cakes and wouldn't let me out and wouldn't pay for them. That was fun. And wouldn't you know it, I'd forgotten my phone that day. Thought I was going to be forever trapped in someone's crazy house, but I did manage to get out in the end. I had a farm shop tell me that I hadn't delivered what I had delivered to them and refused to pay. I had an oven break. And at the time, I can remember just crying over each one of these things and so exhausted and so fed up. And when I look back, I think, God, they were just trying to get me to realise there was an easier way. But when I was in it, just more challenges, more hurdles for me to leap. And it's always that balance, isn't it, between not letting the stuff get you down, not being held back by the crap, not, keeping that focus and keeping that determination. I honestly don't believe that anything just falls into anybody's lap. I keep hearing this term at the moment that seems to be on trend, which is inspired action, but it's very true. The spirit world will not work with you. You will have heard me say before, it's not like ordering a pizza. You don't just put in your request and it comes. But equally, sometimes when there's difficulties, they're trying to show you another way. And I don't think anybody, let me know, is there anybody out there who always understands the signs and has never made a mistake and has always followed a divinely lit path by trusting the signs and their instincts? I think most of us are flailing around, trying to do our best, trying to work out where we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to be doing, and pushing ourselves along. crawling, weeping sometimes, but still moving forward. So I wanted to just talk to you about that wasp nest because it really makes me laugh. You couldn't have got a bigger sign, could you? And yeah, still didn't listen. Still took another month for me to actually twig what they wanted me to do. And that's the thing when you're really busy. When you're really, really busy, you don't hear spirit because you're not taking the time to listen. Because when spirit talks to you, it's the same voice that is your voice in your head. And you have to be able to still and quieten the mind, not completely, but enough to be able to listen, enough to be able to feel how you really feel, not how you think you feel. And we've continued with the spiritual slaps here just to really make sure that I'm really dealing with my money issues, which is just bloody marvellous. So at the point of recording this, it's mid-November and Christmas is looming and we've got lots of stuff going on, and it's been such a funny time. So I've had some people pull out of different courses, the retreat in January and stuff like that. So it was triggered. Then I've had, we were going to have our loft boarded, and the guys came out to have a look at it and told us that our roof has failed. So we've got to get an entire new roof, a whole new roof. So there's lots of sort of monetary trigger stuff coming in here, these slaps just to make me surrender and trust and know that it's going to be okay. And I know that nothing's going to happen with me. I don't think I'm going to get clarity on this void for quite some time yet. And so I've just got to sit and try not to panic and try and relax. But on the flip side, wow, what a different experience I'm having with my life now. So it's always interesting. I think, for most of us mediums, as I said on a previous podcast, this is a calling, and it has to be a calling. And it has to be a calling because being a medium is hard. It is, that bit of yourself. If you're a medium or a light worker, you will always have been more sensitive than people around you. You will always have taken things to heart, tried harder, tried to be kind, and had that squashed. It's a difficult space to be in this world of negative energy, to be hope, to be light, to be love. And we feel it. We feel that we don't fit in. And we feel that people don't understand us or appreciate us. So we're always slightly, I would say, more vulnerable. And that vulnerability is also what makes us a medium. So you can't have one without the other. I remember going, funny enough, it was to Disneyland with my children and my husband. And I'd never been, I'd always wanted to go. And I went as an adult in my 30s for the first time, and we watched the parade and I cried. And I'm not a pretty crier. God, I wish I could cry like people in films, but it's not appealing, and it's very red. And the red nose will remain for hours following the crying. So that's always super marvelous. So it's a really unattractive thing. And I remember watching the parade and crying, and my husband going, oh God, here she goes again. And me asking the spirit world afterwards to just be less sensitive. Can't I just I don't want to cry at the adverts in the cinema before the film has even started. I equally don't want to leave the cinema at the end and walk out into the foyer with a nose that looks like I'm either a drunk or I've just been punched in the end of it. And anyway, it's embarrassing being a weeper. Crying at music. You could be somewhere and some piece of music will play and you'll start filling up and you just can't control it. There's all sorts of different ways that this sensitivity is not a plus. Anyway, so I asked them to take it away, and they said, well, we can, but it will affect your work. And I said, okay, then I'll keep it. And I've always remembered that desire to just be free from the feelings, the emotions. It's I don't know if you've seen that GIF, I'm a glass case of emotion, with Will Ferrell in, but that's how I feel nearly all the time. That's in my most used GIFs. So anyway, I think it has to have a bit of a calling to be a medium, because you take that part of you that's vulnerable and that you're embarrassed of because it's always on display and it's not received well, and you have to share that vulnerability, that soft and squishy bit with you. You can't have a shell. If you want to be a good medium, you can't have a shell. You can't be hard. You can't be covered up. You have to be vulnerable and soft. And you have to take that soft bit, that bit that should be protected, and you have to hand it to complete strangers for them to squash as they wish. And most of the time people appreciate it, but every now and again you get somebody who doesn't, and that's hard. And it's hard. So it has to be a calling, I think, if you want to do this properly, because it is like facing up to all your own doubts and fears about yourself repeatedly, and doing it with an audience, whether that audience is an audience of one or a room of 50 people watching a demonstration. That's tough. So I've lost the plot now. I'm not sure why I was talking about this, but you have to have that. You have to have that. And the trouble is, if you've got a work ethic like I've got, the two are quite damaging together. And that's what I've really learned here, is that my desire to work for the spirit world has damaged my life. And now I'm trying to put my life back together and find the balance. And the only way that they're really letting me do that is to go essentially a little bit cold turkey, not fully, but a little bit cold turkey with my work, so that I can find it. And you know what, guys? It's making a difference. So I do a volunteering job. Some of you will know this. I work for Girl Guiding. I have a rainbow unit, so that's the girls that are aged 5 to 7. And I have to say, last night was probably one of the best sessions we've ever had. And it was so much fun. And it was just so enjoyable, and I loved it. And you know, I do count that as part of my light work. That is, to me, is as important as the readings that I do. And the reason why it was so enjoyable and so fun was I hadn't arrived there broken, at the point of exhaustion, unable to function, and I wasn't going back after it had finished. After you've got 20 girls running around screaming, doing all sorts of crazy stuff, I wasn't then going back to work. I was going back to have the rest of the evening off. And that is unusual for me. And that felt like a gift. But actually that should be the standard of how my life is. So I am learning lots within the pain of letting go and the pain of wanting to know who I am and what it's for. And I had the absolute mind-blowing pleasure of attending Lynn Parker, the tutor I was talking about last time, her ordination as a minister for spiritualism, the SNU, on Saturday. And it was just, I had to keep turning my camera off because I couldn't, there's the crying again, because I couldn't stop ugly crying. But what a wonderful thing to be a part of, what a wonderful thing to see, to watch that amazing human being be honoured for her hard work and the love and dedication that she has shown to people around her on their spiritual journeys. People were standing up and talking about how amazing she was. People were writing, because we were on Zoom, people were writing in the Zoom room about how amazing she is. And oh God, it was just the love and the joy and the wonder of it all. It was just such an amazing thing to be part of. And that to me felt like a spiritual clap, which has just come in with me, claps. So these are the opposite of slaps, but they still serve a similar purpose. I've got my own lingo going now. So spiritual claps are letting you know you're doing the right thing in a positive way. And being a part of that service and hearing the words spoken and the understanding of the undertaking that Lynn has gone through in order to be of service to fellow man and the spirit world was just incredibly mind-blowing. It was amazing, and very, very powerful and very, very moving. And I felt really lucky to be a part of that. So that felt like a real clap to me. Yeah, and I've also had a really funny, it's funny how the universe works, isn't it? So I had a really funny message sent to me, I think it was last week, and it actually made me laugh out loud because you can't beat the timing of these things. And it was it was sent to my personal Facebook Messenger. And it said, hello, glad to come across you. Now, this is a friend of another person that I'm friends with on Facebook. I'm pleased to meet you. Let me tell you about my spiritual entrepreneurs group. And this will take you from where you are to certified to 6 figures. I'm not sure who's certifying it. It was a very weird message. But the energy of it was just horrendous. It was a really, really long message, really big sales pitch. And it just sounded like and feels like a pyramid scheme. You charge your clients to coach you, I'll coach you, and I'll charge you for that. And this money will just keep filtering up. And there was nothing in it about doing a good job. There was nothing in it about being of service to the spirit world or to people. It was all about money and how many figures you can get and how you can get more funnel and business. And it was just, I was so grateful to receive it because it just really helped me to go, this is really not in alignment with who I am. I don't want to be this person. I don't want to sell to you. I'm happy to put out there what I'm offering, but I don't want to ram it down your throat. I don't want to activate your need button. I want to trust that the universe will bring you to me if you're supposed to be working with me. And if you're not, then you're not. I don't want to force it on you. And it was really funny because the last sentence in this message was, I'm interested to find out why the universe has crossed our paths. Now, let's be honest, the universe has crossed our paths because you've gone through your friends' list to look for possible sales targets for people you can sell to. But on the flip side of that, maybe the universe did put us in alignment, but actually it's not so I can take part in your sales building spiritual entrepreneurs school. It's so I can realize that really, absolutely and completely is not where I want to be. I don't want to be doing funnels. I don't want to be engaging. I mean, anyone who's got a business who's on Instagram or Facebook now, I mean, it's just so many things you're supposed to post a day, and you're supposed to make sure that people comment, and you're supposed to comment back to all the comments. And I understand that all the algorithm is, they're trying to earn their money. Of course they are. But I just don't think that works with spirit. There's got to be a balance. And that's what I'm trying to find. But who knows? I might change my mind in 2 months when no one sees any of my posts and I'm lonely. But I really, it's fascinating. So that felt like a bit of a clap to me, maybe a slap. think it was a clap, just to show me that that's where I could have gone, but actually I didn't go there, and that is something to be celebrated, because in all the time of having my membership program, I never once inboxed anybody to sell it to them, never once. So yeah, it's good. Still learning, still trying to let go, still trying to surrender, still trying to allow, still trying to trust. And I don't like it, but I'm doing it. And I am noticing the benefits. So that is a bonus. I really, really miss my members, the people that I saw on quite a regular basis. But I also have to accept that in some ways I was holding them back, because they weren't moving forward, because they were waiting for me. And you have to learn with all mediumship to be a self-starter. And it's funny because some of the girls that were learning with me, I know have been getting together to practice. And that's just brilliant. That's exactly what I want, is people to organise it for themselves. So marvellous. This is good. So there's one last thing that I just wanted to finish talking about today. Now, apologies if you are the person that emailed this to me, because you emailed it to me so long ago and I can't even find your email now to be able to respond to you by name. But we were talking in one of my previous podcasts about how the spirit world control who comes in a reading scenario. And they sent me a message, a lovely message, and they just said, essentially, I bet if you ask and you try, you can control who comes in from the spirit world. But my question to that is, should we control who comes in from the spirit world? Now, I'm going to talk, and this is not aimed at you, email writer. This is just generic stuff that I've been picking up. Basically what happens with this podcast and with my spiritual journey is there'll be something, in this case it was your email, that will get me thinking, and then as I'm thinking about it and processing it, the spirit world will bring me lots of information and guidance in different ways, in different spaces, so that I can clarify what I feel about it. This is why I love doing this podcast, because I love getting emails. I love questions. I love working out where I stand with things and what I think. And, you should all know this. I hope you know this, but this is what I think today. And I am on a journey just as you are. And what I think today may not be what I think this time next year. Full disclosure, we're all learning, we're all growing. Anyway, so should we try and control who comes in from the spirit world? And there's reasons why I'm not sure that we should. Now, let me start by saying, if you've had a one-on-one reading with me, you know that for the first spirit that comes in, I normally try and do at least 2 spirit links. The first spirit that comes in, I like to surrender to the spirit world. For the second spirit link that comes in, you can ask if you haven't heard from who you want to hear from. Now, it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes somebody just wants to hear from one person and we spend the whole time, that's a whole half an hour, with that one spirit. So nothing is ever set in stone. But I think there's a lot going on here that we don't comprehend, understand, know about. It's incredibly complex. So I have found that sometimes in my readings, you will get somebody that steps forward who perhaps doesn't pull on the heart in the same way, or isn't the one that they really want to hear from, let's put it that way. But the person that they want to hear from is there and waiting. It's just that the energy of the space needs to be prepared. Now let's talk about that. When I teach mediumship, I say to my students, I want you to think of it like a triangle. And at the top of the triangle, you have the spirit world. Then the bottom 2 points, the bottom 2 corners of the triangle are the medium, and the sitter, the person, the recipient, the person the spirit is connecting with. And that's the same whether you're doing audience demonstrations or doing one-on-one readings. Now, your job as the medium is to bring all three of those corners together. Now, the spirit world are here, they just come. We don't have to lasso them in from heaven. They are around us all the time. You just say, "Are you there?" And they say, "Yes." But the other two corners, you have to bring yourself in, you have to get yourself into the right space. And then the sitter, you have to bring them in. And there's lots of different ways of doing that. Sometimes it's about having a little chat with the sitter. Sometimes the spirit world know that sitter is tightly wound and they want to hear from their mum, but it will actually help them settle into the energy of the reading if their grandmother comes in first. So that's one of the reasons why I don't think we should control who comes through. Certainly for the first one. I think for the second one, we have to understand that we're doing a job and we're being paid by somebody, and we have to try and endeavour to do what they want. But generally speaking, I think it's just respectful to the all-knowing power and wisdom of the spirit world to understand that they know who should come in. I don't feel like the spirit world, there's a lot of patronisation of the spirit world out there, and there's a lot of sort of I need to direct them, I need to control them. But I believe that us humans are way down in the consciousness pecking order, and it's almost like being manipulated by some low vibrational energy. Why do we feel like we need to instruct them? Are they there going, I really want to come in, but I can't come in and work with my daughter who really wants to hear from me because the medium has not told me that I can. It just doesn't seem like spirit to me. We're dealing with an intelligence, a really intelligent, wise force. They know more than we do. So why do we feel like we need to instruct them? So that there's that there. The other thing is, we are in service, aren't we? We're in service, as I've been talking about quite a lot today, to the spirit world as well as the sitter. So sometimes when I'm doing a reading, we are actually working for the spirit world. So sometimes there are people that have done wrong in life who need to come in and apologise to somebody. Now, I will never force a spirit onto anybody. In fact, I did a reading for somebody last week where their parents came in and they said, "I don't want to hear from them. I don't want to talk to them." And that's fine. I will never say, "No, you have to. That's the spirit that's here." I will never do that. But I had to give them the choice, because I knew their parents were in spirit and I knew that their parents wanted to apologise. I knew that their parents had had issues with drink while they were here and that had impacted their behaviour. And I know that they wanted to say sorry. Now, it's absolutely fine that sitter didn't want to hear from them. But it's also part of my work to work for the spirit world. And sometimes it's part of the healing of the spirit on the other side that they are given the chance to apologise. And who am I to not allow that to take place? So it's always interesting how it all works. So yeah, at the moment, touch wood, I'm at 100% success rate. Touch wood. I'm always, I never like to say those things because as soon as you get too cocky, the spirit world will come and take it away. But I know that I can call in, generally speaking, who people want. In fact, I did a demonstration on Friday that was blooming hilarious. So half the people didn't turn up. So I had a really reduced audience size. And then it was just so funny. There was 3 people that came together. A mum and 2 daughters. Now, technically speaking, they didn't get more spirits than everybody else because there was 3 of them. So the fact that they got 5 spirit links or something, it's not that ridiculous because there was 3 of them. So was only 3, if you know what I mean. So it was only 2 extra. But every time I tried to work with somebody else or another spirit, every single time they would go, "Oh God, you're with us again. This is so embarrassing." And I would start with somebody's grandparent, and then it would somehow switcheroo, and somebody else would be coming in from that three's loved ones in spirit. And because there was only 7 people there, it was teeny, that demonstration, I was determined, and I dug my heels in, and I said, right, we're going to see who has not had a message, who do you want to hear from? And we went round and did it like that to get that control in. And that's not something that I would normally do. I mean, it's very different, isn't it? If you've got an audience of 50 and 35 people don't get a message, that's kind of expected when you go to a demonstration. But when there's 7 people and 5 links have gone to 3 of them, you have to kind of do something. So I was very determined, and I was able to bring in somebody for everybody. But I would never be so bold as to say that will work every time. And I may have mentioned this on this podcast before, but one of the stories that always sticks with me is somebody who used to come and sit in one of my groups whose husband was in the spirit world. And you know what? She was one of the most patient, open and willing people I've ever worked with. And she sat in that group for 2 years waiting to hear from her husband. And she got work colleagues through, she got her uncle through, she got grandparents through, but never her husband. And after a couple of years, she contacted me and said, "I've had a dream about my husband." And he was in a room and he said, "I've been waiting for you." And I said, "Why haven't you come through? Why don't you come through?" And he said, "I was waiting for you to tell me you're ready. Are you ready?" And she said, "Yes." And then the following week in our practice group, her husband came through, one of the other students, straight away. And it was just such a wonderful reminder from the spirit world when I spoke to my guides about it, that she wasn't ready. And it would have damaged her healing. It would have set her back. She wasn't ready to hear from him. And her soul had to decide when she was ready. And once her soul had decided, not her brain, her soul, then her husband came straight in. And so sometimes the spirit world know that we can't hear from the people we think we want to hear from, because it would be too painful and too upsetting, and it would actually be damaging. Doesn't mean they're not with you. It just means you're not ready to hear from them. And we have to trust. And if we can't trust in that, how can we trust in anything else? We have to trust that they know what they're doing, because they do. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts on this. And, if you disagree, drop me a message. I love it. You're allowed to disagree with me. You don't have to think that I'm not here preaching to you. This is not the Bible. You don't have to abide by these rules. Find what resonates and take it. Find what doesn't and sit with it. And if you need to, discard it. But, do let me know your thoughts, because I love it. And I'm so grateful to that lady for messaging, because it did really make me think about it. And I thought, well, I do ask if that person will come in. But equally, I'm aware that this podcast is listened to by mediums, developing mediums. I mean, we're all developing mediums, but you know what I mean. And also people who are just interested in spirituality. And it can be a really hard thing when you're learning, certainly, and still hard for me now as a professional, still learning. But it can be a really hard thing when someone comes and they only want to hear from who they've decided they want to hear from. It can put a lot of pressure on that sitter corner of the triangle when you're trying to get a balance in the energy. So that's why I phrase it like that. So we're nearly at 40 minutes. Didn't that go quickly? And it looks, fingers crossed, like this one has recorded properly and you will be able to listen. So if you've got a chance, please do leave this podcast a review. It really does help the algorithm on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all of that. Also on Facebook, we've got the Mediumship Matters page. And please do email me your questions, because I do read them and I will get around to answering them all, I promise. It just is taking me a bit longer than expected, because I'm trying not to say it, but what I want to say is I'm on the naughty step. The spirit world have put me on the naughty step and I've got to wait to come off it. But there we go. So thank you all for listening, and I will catch up with you again soon. Have a lovely day.